respiratory system. Okay, so what is the function of your respiratory system? So basically, it contributes to the homeostasis or your balance by providing for the exchange of gases. So what are these gases? You have your oxygen and your carbon dioxide. Okay, may exchange of where? Okay, between the atmosphere, okay, between your blood and your tissue cells. Okay, for lesson 1, we'll be discussing brief anatomy of your respiratory system. Okay, for your pulmonary system, okay, so the structure is divided, okay, into 2 parts. You have your upper respiratory tract and your lower respiratory tract. For your upper respiratory tract, okay, you have 2 parts or structures. You have your nose and nasal cavity as well as your pharynx. Okay, so duwa lang sila under your upper respiratory tract. Okay, for your nose and nasal cavity, okay, so the main function is to warm, to humidify, partially filter the air. Okay, so paano yung ma-filter ang air? So your nose or your nasal cavity is lined with mucus by your mucous membrane. Okay. Next would be your vibrissae. Okay, so some books call them your nose hairs, okay, or your vibrissae. Filtration occurs, okay, so your nose or your nasal cavity is lined with your mucous membrane. Okay, so the hairs or your vibrissae here, okay, are important for filtering out large particles by turbulent precipitation where air hits many obstructing veins. Okay, it can be your concha or your turbinates, your septum, and your pharyngeal wall. Okay, so basically, the air will just hit, okay, those surfaces so that it can trap the large particles, okay, in your nose. And you will have your booger. Okay, so basically, yung ang main function ni nose and your nasal cavity. Also functions for your olfaction or your sense of smell. And for your speech. Pharynx or your throat, it is also lined with your mucous membrane. Okay? Common passageway for food and air. You have 3 parts. You have your nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Okay? So first segment, you have your nasopharynx. By the name itself, you have your naso and your pharynx. Okay? So the main function of your nasopharynx is basically for respiration. While both oropharynx and your laryngopharynx, okay, both for respiration and for digestion. Okay, so those are the 2 parts of your upper respiratory tract. Now let's move on to your lower respiratory tract. Okay, first you have your larynx or your voice box. So the main function is for speech, and you have your phonation and your articulation. So speech is composed of 2 mechanical functions. First is your phonation. Okay, so your larynx contains your vocal cords. Okay, so your vocal cords produce sound as they vibrate. Okay, if na-stretch ang cords, it will produce high pitches, and if it is relaxed, okay, it will produce low pitches. Okay, while your articulation is mainly produced by your mouth, such as your lips, your tongue, and your soft palate. Okay, so good to know na information. You have 9 cartilages of your larynx. Okay, so first you have your thyroid cartilage. Okay, your thyroid cartilage is also known as your Adam's apple. Okay, you also have your cricoid, you have your epiglottis, you have 2 arytenoid cartilage, you have 2 corniculate, and 2 cuneiform cartilage. Okay, that is all for your larynx. Next is your trachea, or also known as your windpipe. Okay, so next you have your trachea, also known as your windpipe. Okay, this is your trachea. Then you have your bronchi here. Okay, so your bronchi, okay, meron siya other parts. You have your main or your primary bronchi, which is your first generation. You have your lobar, your second generation, and your segmental bronchi, your 3rd generation. Okay, meaning ang mga branching yan lang din. Okay, then you have your bronchioles. Okay, so the 3 of them, the main function is to allow passage of air, okay, to and from the alveoli, okay, or the distal part of your lungs. Okay, it should remain open. Okay, Okay, your trachea, okay, ma-remain siya open tungod yung may harap siya cartilage rings. Okay, these are your rings. Next, you have your bronchi. Okay, your bronchi also have cartilage plates, and for your bronchioles, it is open due to the pressure, okay, inside the bronchioles. Okay, next, under your bronchioles, you also have your terminal bronchioles. Okay, next, you have your respiratory bronchioles, and at the distal part, you have your alveolar ducts. Okay, this is your ducts. Okay, your alveolar sacs, and your alveoli. Okay, so your alveoli is the basic unit of your pulmonary system. Okay, so your alveoli, there's two types of cells here. Okay, you have your type 1 here. Okay, lining of the alveolar walls is more numerous, okay, compared sa type 2. Okay, less numeracy type 2. It is also known as your septal cells. Okay, and do you makita or produce ang alveolar fluid as well as your surfactant. Okay, your type 2 alveolar cells. Okay, so you have two physiological zones. You have your conducting zone and your respiratory zone. Your conducting zone composed of your nose and nasal cavity, your pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, until sa terminal bronchioles. Okay, those are parts of your conducting zone. Okay, passageway lang siya sa air. There is no gas exchange na occur. You have your respiratory zone. Okay, it is composed from your respiratory bronchioles, okay, down to your alveoli. Okay, so all of them are part of your respiratory zone. Okay, ang function in your respiratory zone is for gas exchange. Okay, again, conducting zone, passageway of air, no gas exchange. Respiratory zone, A for gas exchange. Here you have your pleura. Okay, your pleura are your coverings of your lungs. Okay, you have two parts. You have your parietal and you have your visceral. Okay, your visceral pleura, it adheres to the organ itself or to the viscera. Okay, so are siya sa innermost nga part. Ang outermost, you have your parietal pleura. Are siya sa periphery. Okay, then you have your fluid here called your pleural fluid. Okay, since your visceral pleura is located inside, it is more sensitive to your stretch. While your parietal pleura located outside, it is more sensitive to pain. Okay, last part for your anatomy, you have your lungs. Okay, so your lungs are organs in your thoracic cavity separated by your heart and other structures in the mediastinum. Okay, so you have your apex and your base. Okay, so see, apex is here. It is located. Okay, it is the narrow part and the topmost part. And you have your base. Okay, it is the broad area or sa lower part of your lungs. This is your apex. This is your base. Okay, then you have your right and your left lungs. For your right lung, okay, you have three lobes. Okay, you have your upper, your middle, and your lower lobe. It is separated by two fissures. Okay, so see, horizontal fissure. So siya ang ka-divide sa horizontal fissure, ka-divide sa upper and your middle lobe. While your oblique fissure, it divides your middle lobe from your lower lobe. Okay? For the left lung, you have two lobes lang. Okay? You have your upper and you have your lower lobe. It's divided by your oblique nga fissure. Okay? Then meron siya isa ka part. You have your cardiac notch. Cardiac notch here, so it encloses your heart. Okay? So your heart. Okay, so imagine that this is your heart. Okay, so that is why my cardiac